Good evening, everyone. I am live and I see, sadly enough, not on the other Facebook pages, only on my personal Facebook page. But I let go because I think I am live on my English YouTube. Hello, everyone. Finally, I could manage to make my YouTube work. And I do also the Dutch live streams earlier. I am from streaming from the Netherlands, and it's here past midnight. But I always use this song, Seize the Day, because it's I like the title, Seize the Day. It's very important to seize the day. Especially me, former MKultra, I have to say that. Seize the day. So welcome everyone. As well on, let me see. Yeah, I am live on my English YouTube. Welcome for everyone who views. Welcome here. On YouTube, on my first YouTube channel. Also welcome. Let me see if no, I don't get the go live button on Facebook, so that's a pity. But all right, the music has stopped. Hello everyone. I am Monique Wallace, and maybe for many new, maybe for some not. But I love to introduce myself also broader into the world and other countries outside of Europe and the time zone of the Netherlands, and that other people, can also maybe find out about me. And my mission is to talk about who I am, why I am doing these live streams, and so on. Hey, Rick the Daddy, yeah, welcome. It's good to see you in the chat again. You're the first one I see. Oh, I hear echo. Did you get some rest? Well, it's very unique that I let me say it like this. I put myself down on the bed, horizontal, and I closed my eyes, but I did not sleep. No, I did not sleep, but I rested. So, and I felt when I went upstairs to do my rest, and I felt a bit like, how you say that, a bit like very sleepy. And for everyone, I'm broadcasting from the Netherlands. I am Monique Wallace, and usually I am fully asleep around this time. But I so love, also doing the live streams for people from other countries and who might want to join in as well in the live stream for them a time which is proper for entering the chat room and so on. Hey, Yvonne. So, and okay. So, who am I? Well, as I said, I'm Monique Wallace, and the title says it, former Monique Wallace, former MKultra. I just did another live stream in the Netherlands and in Dutch, and now I'm doing this one in English. And last Tuesday, I started to do what I call midnight live streams, because it's here in Amsterdam, midnight, and to introduce myself and who I am. So I come from former MKultra, which is mind control, full mind control, and I am deprogramming for at least since 2010 that I knew for sure. I was an MKultra, and MKultra is just a collector's name. And I hear and see around me more and more people start to use it, so that's why I decided to as well use it. But for me, the proper expression is more like I am a former full mind-controlled one. And for the one, always was said to me also by my programmers, like I was their slave, which in a way was, because I had to work, I had to do everything according to their orders and to their programming. Well, I love to talk about my basic programming, and as well what I until now not really did in my Dutch live streams, that I also want to talk more extendedly about the details of programming, how it's done, and it could be more graphic than usually, but I will try to do that as integer as possible. And I hope you will join me, of course. It would be even greater if you would follow me or subscribe to my channels, like, share. I always say it only once in a live stream. So, but yeah, I like to ask that for that support, because I like to grow as my channels. And MKultra is not the most approachable subject. It's a pretty heavy subject, and that is why I also use a lot of times humor as well to balance out the heaviness, the heavy stuff. But I do take MKultra very serious. And it's so nice to see you here, Yvonne, and Rick the Daddy, of course. I feel a bit sleepy. I must admit, I am a bit sleepy. But I took a kind of a power nap. But it is, I'm a bit, how you say that? So I have my green tea. And as I said, I like to introduce myself as what is MKultra, but specifically what is meant by basic programming and my programmers. And my programmers were 4 basic programmers, and these programmers actually designed my personality, my full personality grid, as they call it. And why is it called a grid? Because it has been selected to create personalities who all fit in 12 times 12. 12 times 12 is 144, if I recall well enough. And that is like a box. A box has divided in these grids of 12 times 12. Why 12 times 12? Well, the 12 times 12 is 2 times 3 and 2 times 3. When you see 3 in, for example, the deep state or their symbolism, then you can add a 3 behind it, and then it's 3, which stands as well for the devil's number and far and much more. Hey, Sunbeam Sting, also welcome here. And why is it so many personalities? Well, it is that initially I was very little, extremely little, let's say a baby. I remember that I was a baby when I had my first trauma. And weird enough, I recall still vividly when I was a baby and I was lying in the cradle, and the granddad, which was the Dutch granddad, he was leaning over me, over my head. And I was a baby and I was crying, and when I saw him totally with tears and cramped all over, because he was in my Dutch life, one of my sexual abusers, next to parents and so on. And it is far broader, but I like to go to what is programming and what is exactly who did program me. But that is why I first like to explain that this design is not just suddenly designed. Like, this is a design which has been done basically by one of my 4 main programmers, and his name was Dr. Green. Dr. Green was one of the, I can truly say one of the most evil people I ever met. And he was a famous physician in a certain World War II. And he designed basically my grid. And of course, the other 3 programmers, basic programmers, also added a lot to that. But he was basically my main programmer. And he designed my basic personality grid with 13 columns. And in the middle was then number 7. Well, number 7 and 13 are as well very important numerology in the deep state. And these 13 columns, they go very deep. So they run very deep. And if you literally see a column like in Excel, for example, then there's layer after layer after layer after layer. And the deeper you go in one of that column, which is, for example, number 13 or number 1, and then all these layers are connected and intertwined with each other with keywords and key coding and basic number and letter coding. And every single column has its personality grids, and these personality grids can be in the thousands each column, and even more. I recall, since I started to deprogram, which is already from 2000, because I had a burnout, but from 2010, I was really aware of I am a former MKultra, and that what I uncovered was almost on daily base. I had days that I uncovered approximately 300 personalities all at once. And I'm not kidding. So I mean that. Literally 300 sometimes. And also in the night, sometimes personalities came forward. So then it is, of course, very easy that it then will be in the end, in the thousands of personality splits. And that's also another word for it. And split is actually a good description. Hey, Pascal! That's a long time. I saw you in the chat. Welcome as well. And Sunbeam Sting, I already said hello. Okay, so this basic design, to come back to that basic design, it's done with that the first trauma is done as baby to approximately 4, 5, 6 is actually already pretty old to get the full mind control, because you have to be as young as possible, as little as possible. And with core split, I mean that with extreme heavy trauma, like, for example, I was put in aquariums with water hooked to machines and tubes, and at times I had then to think I was drowning. I make a short summary of last Tuesday, what I mentioned, but I will not make it too long. You're at work during those streams. Well, you're very welcome, Pascal. Nice that you joined tonight, this midnight, past midnight. It's now the 21st of May, officially. So this core split, and as well that being buried alive, what I endured. A lot has been done with the elements to traumatize me, and with heavy trauma and done as much as possible, as often as possible, then the soul of this core of my who I am as and tiny little baby or toddler, and the more traumas, then it's a kind of out of body experience all the time. Everyone who has had, for example, an accident, even small, like bumping your knee against a sharp corner of a table, on a table or something, then even the being can be thrown out of the body. That sounds maybe weird, but it is possible. And I am also clairvoyant, so I can also see it, but I recognize the signs, like every little trauma, a little big trauma, doesn't matter, it's a shock to the body, and then it's like a little jump out of the physical body. It's like you're in a car or in a small car and you have a bumpy road, and then suddenly you hit a higher bump, and then you whoops, whoops. There I go again. I am sometimes too spontaneous, but maybe you get that idea, like that suddenly, if you have a big bump. I remember that from when I was a child, that I was sitting in the back of the car, and then then there was a big threshold with the car, and then you feel it in your stomach, or when you're in a swing, and then suddenly you are in that high point, and then suddenly drop, and then you feel it through your body. Actually, that's a very small example of how that goes. That the inner energetic bodies, they have a harder time to adjust, so they are less smooth, and then they go behind it. So maybe you have an idea then. So this basic core split, and I feel now my throat, so itchy throat. This basic core split, so then you have two splits, and what I remember is that I have heard 4 core splits, and the core is nothing else than who I am, who I was, who everyone is. And with MKultra, it's very important that core doesn't want to come back in the body. And this is why so many traumas have been done already as young as possible, so that my core would never want to be in the body again. And the biggest thing what they do is use the fear. The word fear in big capitals. So that my core, even if, suppose I would someone would come by and would be very loving to me, then still the core would be scared and not want to come back into the body again. So it's very hard to approach MKultra really from that you can really get to know an MKultra. And I found out also later, while I started to deprogramming, how far I was with all my feelings, and that I always thought in the front life that I was always very I was very a pleaser. So I helped everyone. I was everywhere when there was a need of help, and then I jumped in. So my heart was very big, and I always thought like, I'm a giver. And when I started to become more and more emotional in my life, and later on when I was 20 plus years old, I started to conduct choirs, etc., because I'm also a professional pianist. Again, my throat. I hate it when this happens. And I don't have a cold, but it is because I'm talking about it, so. And then I start to cough, so I apologize if that happens. I see Pascal say whoopsie. Oh, that was with that bump, of course, with the bumpy ride. Um, what was I talking about? So these. Mm, I lost my train of thought. It will come back. Deep sigh. Ah, you meant a bumpy ride. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about, but that's about, oh yeah, the fear base. The fear is the basic one which the programmers rely on, and that core will not contract is, I think, the right word, that it will stay whole. So I worked a lot of years to being whole again, and fortunately I am whole pretty well. There is one section which I did not yet free fully, and that is the military section, because I was also used for military black ops, and that's for a later time. For now, I wanted to go back to what is basic programming, basic programmers, what I mean with that. So the basic programmers are 4 persons. One is a woman, and she was called Queen E, and she was literally a queen in the world, a very important queen in the world. Fortunately, fortunately, she is no longer here in this earthly life, so that's why I feel more free to even talk about her. But years ago, I might not have dared to. Hello, into the core being. Hi all, welcome. So this basic programmers, 3 men, and one of them was a man with a little black mustache, and he is still, well, famous is not the right word, but he is a well-known worldwide for creating a certain war. And I know that sounds weird and bizarre, but I knew him in person. And he was a very complex man. And for me, with him, I had a hard time to let go of the picture of him also being the nice kind of daddy figure. And he was originally a German, and he talked with an accent, and he did know some Dutch words, by the way. He was, in fact, he was amazing intelligent, but he was also mentally more and more disturbed. But in the beginning, and he was already an old man, by the way, when he did, he had an impact in my basic programming as well. And I will go more in depth talking about these 4 specifically. Then the other man was, which I call is White Rabbit. And White Rabbit is, I will not mention his name, but he had a very close circle with military, and he was close to presidents in the USA. And or America. I'd rather say America. I love that word better than USA. And then the other one is Dr. Green, which was that famous physician in Germany. And they all fled. They were helped. They fled to the USA, to America, and there they were helped to continue their work to perfection. Yeah, what is the word? To perfect, perfectionize. What's the verb for that? Hello, Artis Liberalis. Such a nice word always to pronounce. Welcome. Yeah, I'm back. Hello, thank you for following, Bastiaan H. Welcome. So, and to come back to why am I saying, because I'm very much aware that I make myself very vulnerable to state that these, again, famous men and women and women, that they were my basic programmers. I truly feel that it is important that I talk out loud, that I voice what for me is the truth, what I experienced. And I I uh, I wish I could explain that it is an I even can, if I would want to, I don't want to, but if I would want to, then for example I could recall their smells, how they touched me, how they felt, and that is all very physical remembrance. So that's as well for me a significant proof for myself. But I'm very aware that it sounds, um, yeah, like a fantasy or like a science fiction, and it is, yeah, it is the truth. That is the only thing what I can say, and I do my story because I feel that since 6 years old, I just have my mission for voicing what I experienced, and that it is a true, really a truth that exists, that people who are high up in the world or where people look up to. Welcome for following another follower. Thank you so much, Mortenix. I hope I pronounce it well, and otherwise I I will hear it in the chat. And as well, welcome by the way to Rumble. I think I'm live there. I hope I'm live there. Um, Let me check. Yes, I'm live there. And also on Trovo. Oh, no. Oh. So, welcome there as well. Okay. Then I said hello to everyone. And on my English channel, YouTube English, special English channel, welcome as well. Because I think I forgot to. And of course on Facebook, my personal page only. Somehow my other pages did not go with when I started streaming. Thank you so much for the compliment, Bastiaan. Really like how you manage all those live platforms. Thanks so much. But I learned from the best. So, yeah, thanks so much. And the more I do it, the more I learn, of course. And I'm very grateful for that. So, yeah, that is my mission. I feel I started also to realize, because I do this now on a time which is for the Netherlands not common time to go live streaming, and I myself am during my deprogramming, I started to have a behavior of a pattern of, well, I go asleep around 10, 11 at the most, and because I am deprogramming for so long. Yeah, for me, it's just has got to do as well with my whole circumstances of how I deprogram. For example, hey Barry, for example, I deprogrammed here in this house since 2010. So I am now 13 years under the same roof, but we have a very unusual living living environment, living circumstance. And I noticed that I speak maybe a bit stuttering, like a bit, how you say that in English, but I feel that's what I wanted to explain. Like I am used in all these deprogramming years to do a pattern which is in the Dutch life, like between 10 and 11, I will go asleep. But now that's, yeah, I realized that I did not challenge myself any longer to stay up past 12 o'clock, because my life here in the deprogramming is very solitude, so in the physical. I do my live streaming now for more than a year, far more than a year, 1 year and a half, I think already, almost. But besides that, physically, I hardly see anyone. And that did change a bit since I do the live stream, that I go more outside. But it is a very, very small circle which I meet. And that is 2 people at the most daily. So, hello! Thank you for your subscribing. Yeah, I'm so glad my alert for YouTube works. Oh, I'm so glad. And welcome, of course. And I will put it a bit down. That works too. Welcome here on YouTube. So all the deprogramming I did under the same roof, as I said, and with a dear friend, which I leave out her name, so that's why I say a dear friend. But I'd rather want to say, of course, what her name is. But she specifically wants never to be revealed. And I honor that as well. So that is why she is my dear friend, or my friend from the heart, and so on. And she told me in 2010, actually in 2008 already, that I started to realize I cannot go outside alone any longer without being pulled off from the streets to be reprogrammed again. And with reprogramming, I mean like a rebriefing in the military, or reprogramming, I mean that the former handlers then tried to catch me literally from the street, and that they pull them inside their little truck or their little car, and then they could again putting me back in the MKultra. So all the years what I would have done on forehand would totally be gone. And then I could start all over again. Well, you can imagine, I don't think I would be able to start all over again. Maybe I would try over and over again, but I doubt if I would. No, I cannot say that because I'm very stubborn. That's my character. I just keep on going. If I have a goal, and I always knew my mission in life as well, and that is why I do so passionately my story and want to spread my voice and story, because I feel that mission, that people start to connect more and to realize that MKultra is real, and that mind control is real, and but especially how heavy these traumas are, and the tortures, and that they are real, and being done by so-called elite. Not all the elite, but there is a certain number who is now in the world think they rule the world, and even more and more start to think that they can rule the world. And many more people are starting to feel more miserable and in poverty circumstances. And I'm not even talking about all the children who are lost, and the invisible children who are still being born in the deep state, of which I was witness. I witnessed myself these children trafficking. And there's a lot, fortunately, also being revealed already. But I think it is so important. My mission is that how horrific these traumas are, and that this torture is real. Pascal, why doesn't she want to be revealed? Good question. She is so integer. She was always like that. She was always like, Monique, it's about that you do your thing. And she says then, I feel so rewarded by if you fly into the world and if you are whole. And for her, it's a good question, by the way, Pascal, because she really feels like I'm also clairvoyant and a healer, not talking so much about it, but I am. My whole life I am. And she says, well, for me, it's already a reward if you can do your story and you are whole. And she receives a lot of healing from that as well, to see finally me fly in the world. So she's very integral. She's great. She's the best. She is very unique. And I don't say that she will never reveal, but I leave that to her. the privacy. And the privacy where I live, I say I am living in the Netherlands somewhere. I'm often in or nearby Amsterdam. That's the only thing what I reveal. And I like that too, because I myself, I also like to have things private. And I realize I do say a lot about my programming and so on, but my private life, my exact private life, I keep a bit private. Well, a bit, a whole lot private. But I also have to do that because I'm still former MKultra, and I do my talks about who I am, and I talk a lot about also that I was with the USA presidents, and a lot of things. A lot of people could be, I would say that be offended maybe. So that is also, by the way, why I don't mention any names. And I don't think it will, for now, the world, how the world is, that it will not have its benefits, and for sure not for myself, because I don't think I would be feeling safe. I feel now very safe, and I'm totally not in fears to talk about what I experienced. And that is, I believe, because I don't mention any names. So, but again, a good question, Pascal. Bastiaan, what is your opinion about the elite, and who do you think is the most dangerous? Also a good question. Well, actually, the most dangerous about the elite are the ones who are invisible. So there are certain people who are, by the way, have a body like you and me, so are human, showing human, but they are not being recognized that they have, for example, a leadership position like an organization, or that they are a political leader. No, they are invisible. I know their identities, but they will stay invisible, and I believe that they are the most dangerous. And as long as they can influence these leaders of organizations, which has more and more, of course, influenced these and infiltrated these organizations, that then pulls it with it. But I believe it's important that the invisible, what they call, that they are the capstone. So the capstone, which is the capstone of a pyramid. And they want to stay invisible because they believe that is their power. And I believe that is also they are the most dangerous ones, in my opinion. But about the elite, that's a level lower, but then also a lot which I think are dangerous. And some are also being puppets of the puppeteers of that capstone elite. And there is one particular, his name has a P, and I cannot dare pronounce his name any longer, and he is a high commander. He is the leader also of planet, of other beings, other world beings. You can say reptilian type, but there are several reptilian types as well. And I touch upon this subject, and I know it is a lot more approachable, but I know that maybe people think like, MKultra. There are more MKultras, by the way, who talk about having seen reptilians, and some of them even doubt that they exist or think that they were forced to see, for example, a hologram. But I know that it's real because I touched them. You can touch them. They are physical as well. So it is, and I happen to see at the end also an emote of, I think, an alligator, or maybe my eyes are a bit too tired, but also like a kind of a reptilian, like, crocodile maybe. But I'm not sure. I should not try to describe what I see with my past midnight eyes. And so, good question again. Where shall I continue? So to explain that this programming does exist with the most horrific traumas. That is for me my mission. And what belongs to that is that it's so important to say no to evil. And I realized, I also mentioned it in the Dutch life, like I realized suddenly, like the power is not to, for example, point at a certain person or a nation or a culture, but that what would happen if everyone would, for him or herself, for the ones who are capable of, to just stand still or walk outside and then all at the same time worldwide and say no to evil, then that's not calling up for something. It is just saying no to evil without ever mentioning who, what, I feel I have that right to say that vision, and I have that vision already from when I was very little. From 6 years old, I had the first images of that vision and the mission, and I'm still continuing my life, because many MKultras like me, they don't survive or they withdraw themselves. I'm not saying that I will never withdraw myself, because life goes the way it goes. But I am talking about it now. And as a teenager, I wrote in some diary fragments, which I still have in crayon, very wildly and very emotionally. Like, I know that God exists. I know that love exists. And I know that I want to talk about it, that also evil exists, something like that, and that I will talk about how true this evil is, and especially the tortures they use to traumatize and program me. And then I go back to my basic programmers. That is beyond anything. And as long as I'm deprogramming, in the beginning, before I know it's such a big story what I'm talking about, and I decided when I decided to go live past midnight to reach also you dear people from abroad or other people who might otherwise miss me or not see me in the times I stream normally, that it is such a big story. So but that I choose to start to explain from the beginning my story, how my deprogramming went, but also how my programming went. Pascal, it will end when we say no, but most people are hypnotized. Yeah, it is a kind of hypnotized state, a trance state. I also like to say that it's like the whole world is in a giant psychosis, in a mass psychosis. That's also that word also comes up in me, especially last year, since a lot happened there, of course, since last 3-4 years. So, hey, Barry, welcome also on Trovo. And multitasking. Hello on Rumble, check Rumble a bit. And on Trovo, of course, I was already. And here is Twitch. So when I decided to go also after midnight live streaming, there was something else what I discovered, that next to really enjoy live streams, I love doing my live streams, and that I want to do my story and then from the beginning again, and then feeling how it would be to end talk in English past midnight. And I say that specifically because I come from a split up personalities, of which a giant part of me was in the military. And this military part only today really showed itself. So I'm also now digging up that part. And that is why, possibly why I feel also now at this moment a bit sleepy and not so clear in my head like I was a few hours earlier when I did the Dutch live stream. And I did already stream for at least 2 hours, so I had it already behind me this evening. So, of course, I could be tired of that. But I know that my military part, who is now only servicing of today, since today, that also makes me tired. So, and that happens quite often when I do live streaming, that I suddenly feel mentally like a blockage or a blockage. A mental block, I mean. A blockage, I then have to think about drainage, like a plumber and so on. And I wonder if, are there people from abroad that I think if I say a mental blockage, then it's like a plumbing blockage. But I think that I have to say mental block. I was planning on for tonight to go back again to my basic programmers. But first of all, I hope it's a bit clear for everyone who sees me for the first time, and maybe even don't know what really MKultra is. That so to create a full mind-controlled one like me, I say specifically was. Yeah, then there needs to be that core split, and that core split starts with 2. And I know I had four core splits. I still don't know why, but I had 4. And on each core split, then the programmers built through trauma and electroshocks personality on personality on personality on personality, and that can go on and on that can go on infinitely if the brain is capable to, because that is another very important thing, that programmers they choose also from bloodlines. That's also the reason why they choose from bloodlines, because then there is a certain gene, and for them a certain percentage of she or he can make it through the traumas. Because with doing that core split, that first core split, that the being, for example, doesn't want to go back into the body again, then there has to be a whole chain of tortures after tortures after tortures. And I had not just one torture or trauma. No, it has to continue. And these tortures were electroshocks, where I was also buried alive. I was put in coffins. Yes, you heard me well. Put in coffins and also buried underneath the sand. And I still know what it feels like to be buried in a coffin underneath the sand. I was put in large pipes of, even in the front life, as I call it, but which is, I did not explain that yet, but the front life is actually the front personality is the one who does not know anything from the MKultra within, not even from the sexual abuse and so on. In the front life, I felt like I was just shy, and I became more shy and had several weird things, but I thought that was me, that I was oversensitive, and that I also recall very well that I cried every night, and that I did not understand why I had not so many friends, and why I was ridiculized at school, and just being lonely, so lonely, and that I felt so lonely that I didn't understand it, because I loved the world, I loved the people, humanity and animals, and I did not understand why I was so incredibly alone. And now I understand why, that I was carrying all that layers, and then it is besides the sexual abuse. The sexual abuse is basic trauma, and here comes that I try to speak out of the graphic details, but I am trying out that please let me know if I go too far, because I will always try to be integral as possible and try to find other words for it. But for example, the sexual abuse was not just intercourse. There were also tortures added. I recall as baby being raped, and not only in the normal way, but as well from another part. I cannot say that word, but it's the most horrific way of being raped, and that there is a reason for why that is being done, also from another entrance than what is supposedly, and I say it integer, I hope. Oh man, what did I start? Because I don't want to give you all the impression that I just throw out all these graphic details to attract people who are into lust or whatever. No, it is because it is the truth, and that these people who are in these high up positions, that they do these things, and not just one time. No, it's just on and ongoing, and it needs to stop. It needs really to stop. But I truly feel, by repeating it and going live stream after live stream, and maybe for a lot of people repeating too often, I believe that it has a reason why I keep on repeating it, and I dare now also to speak out about how that's being done, that programming. That programming is about torturing, in my case, from when I was already a baby, and when I got older as well, and that kept on going and going and going. And then the combination with being tortured and being raped, and in both ways, if you know what I mean. I cannot say that other word. Please don't write it down in the chat as well. What I also am very careful about is that there will be no names being mentioned in the chat itself. Rather not, specifically not for the famous names, because the way I describe it, you can maybe go in which direction I am and whom I'm talking about, but rather not say any names. That's a request from me. Bastiaan, you mean body parts? What body parts being that body parts are being used, or yeah, that's difficult to say, but let's say being raped with body parts, that too, and as well as bodies who are no longer alive. And that is an obsession with these people, with these horrific, horrible people. And then I'm talking about the real deal. So the people who are from bloodlines, yes, also presidents. Not all of them were, by the way, that rude with the sexual approaching. There were some who were gentle and actually pretty sweet, but then they had other typical things of which was bizarre, and it counts as well for the music industry and the film industry, and a lot in the film and music industry are MKultras themselves or monarchs. Monarchy is, of course, can be confused with monarch programming. Monarch programming is based on the butterfly programming, and the butterfly programming is that spreading the wings and the color yellow-black of the monarch butterfly, but specifically because Dr. Green, for example, he loved pulling butterfly wings in front of my eyes, and he loved torturing animals as well. And so for me, that is an extra dimension, that it also came from him, the monarch programming. And and a lot of times it's being used, this term as well, because MKultras and the monarch programming is a lot being connected with, put at the cross, so being hung at the cross, and upside down being hung. So that these crosses, A lot of times there is an image of, well, you see then a wooden cross, and then you hang someone with ropes and so on. But I saw the most advanced crosses as well on stages of the because I was used with and by the elite, and that there were crosses, for example, with incredible mechanics of which they could then turn the cross so that I would then be hung upside down. I was hung at crosses who had beautiful ornaments. A lot of times I was hung at crosses, and then that was in between two pillars. The two pillars are a sacred symbolism as well, and that counts for Freemasonry also. But I was in a lot of rituals in which I saw these columns, and they were actually a bit based on what you see in Egypt, like these round columns which you see on the old Egyptian buildings, the remains of that. I realized that I go from one subject into the other. Of course, also because of the interaction with you, and I like that. That's also who I am. I like to be in the flow of the talk, and at times to balance out all the heaviness, the heavy stuff, which MKultra is, that I often also start laughing, or suddenly something comical happens to me. I don't know if it is comical, but that I then suddenly start to laugh. And I know that is my way also to deal with the horrific details. And specifically, what I already mentioned is that talking about oops, that was hiccups. That these tortures and traumas are combined with sexual abuse, and that it is constant, repeated. And this is why I was hardly ever at school. I had when I was in a nursery school, I had already bladder and urine problems. So the the front mother of mine had to get me from school, because then the teacher then called to the mom, like, hey, you better get her off school, and that she then can be cleaned, cleansed, etc. And part of keeping the traumas up is that the front family is in it. And that is with full mind control, that is with all full mind controls, that the front family, or at least the parents, are in it, and often also the grandparents, which was in my case as well. And that was already so traumatizing to be there at school and then have wet pants. And this is also the reason why I also was a lot hiding on the toilets at school. I have now again itchy throat. So I apologize for the coughing. So my throat is responding to the details, of course, and I think it's good that I tell these details. And I can always say to myself, well, I did it. I spoke out, and then I can always, after a live stream, say, now I do the upload again on offline, or take out the video. That's very easy. So I'm not. I'm less scared of talking about these details than I used to be when I did the live streams in the beginning. And I will never, I guess, really go into that most horrific graphic details of what I have come across in all that programming world and in that life. And Monarch programming, to come back to that, is also the Monarch programming is being called because it is based on serving your handlers, serving the one you're with. And that is, Monarch programming. I can, You say I can talk around it, but it is basically monarch programming is being trained and educated, as the programmers called it, to please the handlers, to please the elite, and to please, in my case, the presidents in a sexual manner. And it's not easy for me, to say that out loud, but it is the case. Hello, Dutch Pickle Rick. these usernames sometimes. These funny names also, and very inventive names, but also beautiful names. So thanks for following. I am on my goal for 350 followers. I'm on my way to that. Thank you so much. I'm always happy with everyone who follows, subscribed, and so on. And that's the typical monarch programming. And so if I say MKultra, that is then for me not really the complete package of which I was programmed with. Next to that, I had that military programming. And the military programming... Hello, Mortanix. It all sounds so sad. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is sad. But I can fully say that I am very grateful that I can talk about it. There are many also survivors and still recovering or deprogramming who cannot reach, for example, the emotions to laugh or to cry. And I, for some reason, always kept these emotions. So I'm actually feeling blessed that I can talk about it. But it is a sad subject. I truly wish I did not have to talk about it, but I feel I need to. That is kind of what I call my mission, my passion for truth and for standing up for all children, for everyone who is being used for MKultra. And I truly feel it's still being done because I see people around in the world leading the world. Well, they think they lead the world. They lead the world, of course. They want to lead the world into darkness and into Satanism, and that everyone starts to worship Lucifer as well. Yeah, and I feel my passion of that it should stop. And as people, that we should unite in all our differences and say no. That is actually what I feel so passionate about, and as well to talk about what I experienced without becoming too emotional, too over emotional or over angry. And I was angry also at times, but never that I reached a certain point of now I want to take revenge or feel revenge. No, never. Yeah, maybe more MKultras or former MKultras have that, but for me, it's so important that it has to stop, and it can stop. So, Queen E and Small Moustache Man were programmers. Never knew that. Yes, they were. Yeah. And Queen E was one of the giant heads of on top of the elite. She was very, very extremely important. And yeah. And this is why I hope that will more and more people see through, because I see still too much, but that is for me personal, like that certain people are being treated as that because they, for example, well, I will make an example. For example, there is a kingdom and everyone wears aluminum hats with feathers. And it starts with purity, like that family wanted to create a safe harbor for the for the civilians. So then it starts to grow, it becomes a small city around it, and they get their own castle. But then generations later it gets polluted by, for example, the Satan energy or Lucifer, and then that family is no longer that pure and that noble as they were. So that whole the generation of each generation is being polluted, and more has become invisible for the people, for the civilians. But because they come from looking up, from generation after generation, looking up at, oh, they wear aluminum hat with feather. Whoa, wow, then it must be important and good. So it's a kind of blindness to see that it doesn't matter if you're whatever you are, whatever you come from. It's what you really are from within. It's the goodness what you also show, but also from within are, and that I see too much a kind of trance state, like in a bubble, to totally adore and be a fan of, because that kingdom where that royal family wears an aluminum hat with a feather, pure because of that. And I hope that will be broken, that image. Like it's just an image, it's a bubble of which many people are still in. And then another example, that in a family, for example, let's say that I was born in a family, so-called normal family, without being an elite and having that image of, oh, they wear that aluminum hat with a feather, so they are royal. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. Oh, they're now on the balcony waving. Hi. Oh, they waved back to me. So like in the trance state. But suppose I was that little girl who was then living in just a common family, and there the granddad abused me. And more from the family came forward like, yeah, the granddad, he abused me. Well, then if there are more coming forward with that, it's an example, and then there sure must be some family members who then say like, oh, well, there are now so many children who say they are abused. Now we have to keep them safe and to protect them. And there it is then being action taken. I don't say that always happens, but it's an example. But because the family with the aluminum hats and feathers, yeah, they have that image of we are holy, we are noble, we are good, because they wear that aluminum hat and feather. And I am that little girl, for example, and I say, hey, they abused me that with the aluminum hat and the feather, and a lot of friends of them and the family. And then I feel very alone in that. That's my life. I feel very alone in that, because it's a very lonely world for everyone who has certain elites who abuse them. And I had not only, for example, aluminum with feathers, but also, for example, people who lead countries, and then not just one. No, I happen to have met many of them. Since mid-70s, I was monarch and military slave for certain presidents and presidents-to-be from 1974 until 2010. That was the last time. So then you know how many, I guess. And these were only the USA presidents, because I don't dare to touch upon the Dutch, because I live in the Netherlands. I don't dare to even talk about that, because then that feels too vulnerable for me for some reason. So that it is a very lonely journey to start deprogramming and then to come forward with such heavy subject, and for me, fact that it exists. And because I endured it, I all experienced it. But yeah, that was a lot of rambling, I know. I know. Pascal Paco, I'm not familiar with Dr. Green. No, but it was a famous physician, famous doctor in a certain world war with a number 2 behind it. It was very evil. And by the way, there are many in that way. There are many people who came out of that war who also talked about this Dr. Green. And I had similar experiences. I know from a few victims that this Dr. Green also used these forget-me-not flowers. I'm not sure if it's daisies or not. Are they daisies? I'm not sure. Maybe I mix up daisies with forget-me-nots, but that he was pulling out the leaf, forget me not, forget me not. And if it was ending up in a negative, then it was never the good choice. It was never the good one. So he showed then examples of with these petals, pulling these petals. Yeah, I still, when I talk about it, I still see it very visual in front of me. So extreme. He was the purest, one of the purest evils ever, next to Queen E. And the man with a little black moustache is, that is different, I believe. He was also extremely evil, but I had a part in me who was also attached to him because he acted like also a gentle, kind dad. And he was already very old when I was little, but I had to call him Fatih. So and Dr. Green I had to call Uncle J. I will not mention his name. So Uncle. Yes, I mean that, Bastiaan, that World War. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and, yeah. I had a wonderful life. Here we go again. I try to do a bit the sarcastic humor. But I do have, at this moment, pretty wonderful life because I'm whole more than ever. So, and I freed my core, and now I discovered and uncovered today my military part. So, and that is pretty big part of me. So I hope to again do kind of sit-ups and exercises again. And I do exercise a lot more, but I'm looking forward to do the military physical training. I'm very curious what that will call up, because I did not even touch upon the military part and that white rabbit, because I wanted to talk tonight specifically about my basic programmers. That white rabbit was also horrific and very inventive with with putting up tortures and new versions of them, variations of tortures. And he was educating me as well for the military part and military programming. And the military programming was specifically done for my psychic abilities. And my psychic abilities were used the most, and as well as that I had to do certain black ops, of which I'm not proud of at all. And they were, I cannot talk about that today, but so in that way I lift up a bit about my basic programmers, and maybe I will wait a bit for in case there are questions, because maybe I am how you say that it's maybe a bit confusing story, but of course confusing story. It's not a story, it's my life, but and it is amazing what happens inside of me, because my head is extremely tired. So since I started this live stream, I feel it's in my brain like all the time, like moving from right to my left brain. So I have my psychic ability, so I see like it goes from left to right, like then I see my left brain lift up, and then I see my right brain light up. So that's a bit how it feels like now inside my head. Yeah, it's a very weird feeling, and that is because I touch upon the subject MKultra past midnight, because that is a very important part of why I also go live past midnight, because I avoided in all the years of deprogramming to, after 12 o'clock midnight to be active. And I was always like that. Also in the front life, I could be pretty active past midnight. So I believe that a certain military part in me is reacting. Yeah, and I am pretty tired, so maybe I will not make it too long for tonight. For tomorrow, this morning, because it is by the way already 1:20. So where are you all coming from? Are you also coming from abroad? Ah, thanks, Barry, for the MKultra explanation. Also the bio-English. So, so my basic programmers and that man with the little moustache, so he was, for me, more complex than the other three. And with the Queen E, there is always one female programmer. With every MKultra, there is a female basic programmer. Why? Because they have to be like a motherly figure. So, and man, the father figure. And I had 4 basic programmers. Some MKultras only have 1 or 2. But the mom that someone takes over a mother role is extremely important. And it was with Queen E, her purpose as well. Next to that, I was told that my birth itself is already very complex. I have recalled my own birth from a mom of which, how do you say that in English? A birth mom? How do you call that? Draagmoeder? Do you know that, Barry? Or I also saw Miranda. Oh, now I say it again wrong. Oh, man. But I forgot the word for it. But it is not the real mom, but I was born into the womb of another mom. I say it so, surrogate. Surrogate. Yes, exactly. Thanks, Mortenix. And that I, in a heavy reliving, relived my birth from that surrogate mother. And that surrogate mother did not survive. And I was born in, like the deep state and the elite, they love twisting things. So, for example, with God and Jesus, they love ridiculizing cultures and religions, and specifically Jesus and God. So I still recall the environment where I was born in. It looked like a chapel with beautiful purple, blue lighting and a chapel windows, like with that beautiful arch. Very small, and I still can. I could sketch it right now, and it's the same as what I recalled years ago. So for me, that is also the proof on its own that it's a real memory, because that's also an important thing with MKultra and deprogramming, to really see if a memory is true or not true. And I learned, I felt it. And also with the dear friend here who feels a lot, she is, if you can call it clair feeling, not clairvoyant, but clair feeling. That's not the right word, but I found it a nice word for it. And she acknowledged often the atmosphere when I described her, the relivings and so on. So that was already my birth. And then later on, even also in black operations, specifically via White Rabbit, that I got to see on my official birth certificate my real name. And that I supposedly was, that's what they told me. I don't say that I say it is, but they always told me that I am of two bloodlines, a mix. So the father and the mom, a bloodline, and then that Queen E was the mom officially. But I've no proof, so I'm not saying I am. It could be a trick of the programmers, because that's how they do that as well, to create also, to make you think like that. And that is a tough subject as well to touch upon, like what is real and what is not real. And I feel that I can divide that, what is real and not real. So, and to come back to that programmer with that little black moustache, he could be soft, he could be kind. For example, I was sitting in Argentina. He lived on you could not see that from the outside, but it felt like a bunker and a villa all in one. And it was in a mountain, of which carriers had to carry me up to the top of the mountain, in which was built in his giant villa. It was from inside, giant rooms. And there he had a kitchen, he had everything there. He lived in luxury. I know that there are stories going around that he ended up also in South America, and that he was there working very sober, and that he had a pretty tough life, a pretty sober, poor life, or modest life. But I know nothing more about that. He stayed in that bunker, that he was there all the time. I was, of course, I don't know when I was not there, what he did then. Maybe he did live a double life, I'm not sure. But the man he was, I think it's more logic that he would never ever surface again in a world or in people, in between people. He would for sure not decide that, also knowing him, having known him. Because he could at times be a very scary man. So, for example, when I was a little girl of 5, 6 years old, that I was sitting on his lap, and that he was telling me stories. He worshipped his mom, and he sat then in front of the fireplace, and he was then talking to me about how he loved his mom, and what his vision was for the world. He told me also that he had visions of that he wanted to build colonizations outside Earth, and all with his perfect race, with his perfect human race. And he wanted to build UFOs and so on, because he had these documents, he had a lot of material from UFOs and alien material. I was also introduced because of that to das Bell, das Glocken, the bell. And the bell was a device also to change the vibrations, and to change, that was actually the purpose would be to change time, but also to change matter, and to let for example, objects disappear and then appear somewhere else on Earth, or on another spot. So he was extremely intelligent, but he was a bizarre man. So he could be soft, he could be telling me stories. I sat on his lap, and next to that he told me stories. He also let me read books, just children books. And he was then what you see also in pictures of him, for example, that he was stroking little boys. Just he could be like that. He had an incredible aura, and I believe that is why he was chosen to become that one, because he could create around himself an aura of I am a lovable guy, but I know very well also to inspire everyone. But he had incredible extreme nightmares. He had one hand which was shaking. So when he was getting older and older, I saw him also less and less getting control over his hand. And he didn't want to see his hand, so often he held it behind him, and he often wore a glove because he wanted to forget that he had that tremor in his hand. And he was as well addicted to what I think was opium. I'm not sure, that was never told to me, but Dr. Green mentioned a couple of times that they deliberately let him also getting that he got via syringe also a kind of a mixture of which he would then be disturbed in his mind. And I when I was with him at times, then for example that he woke up from an incredible nightmare, and then he described his nightmares to me, and then the theme he told me about these nightmares were that he met God and angels, and that he saw the war between angels, so black angels and white angels. And that was the twisted part in him of, I believe, maybe also part of me started also to love him, because he had a soft spot. He had a gentle side in him. Yeah, that sounds weird, but I know that's also the setup of programmers. Programmers, they love it when the MKultra, when she is or he is very small and little, to create a bonding, so a hate-love relationship. So I know that, and I know how evil he was. So let that be clear. But I don't hate him. But I don't hate not one of the evil people. I just feel that it needs to be told how I experienced him, and that we should say no to evil. Gone. Whoop. Free all children, free everyone, just say no. So to come back to when he described these nightmares, and they became more and more cruel, that he loved expressing these nightmares, and that he then woke up with sweating and totally wet, and that I was lying against him, and that he then squeezed me on his belly, and specifically when he woke up so tensed. So I really had to be careful not to be that I choked with having no air. By the way, this man with a little black moustache, as far as I recall, he never ever raped me. So that's the difference. That's a huge difference. Maybe because it is a programmer, that the programmer then sexually abuses you. Well, no, that's the difference with the basic programmers. Basic programmers, if I recall all four of them, so Queen E, man with a little black moustache, Dr. Green, and White Rabbit, they never ever had intercourse with me or raped me. Never. And that is very important as basic programmer. That's a rule in the MKultra, as far as I know. Hello, artist, I already mentioned that. Let me see the chat. Hello, Marco. Yeah, great that you also joined. Welcome. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat if there are questions because I get goosebumps talking about it because I never so extendedly talked about the personal experiences with this man with the little black mustache. And there I saw pictures circling around about him as a victory, like that the people would show in victory that he died at a high age. I must say they did a good job in resembling how he really looked like. But first of all, he was not skinny. Because I met him, the last time I saw this man with a little mustache was on his dying date time. Exactly, I was very close to him. And he was not skinny. That is not accurate. I know that, for example, noses and ears, the shape of ears don't seem to change when you grow older and when you are at age. And the nose grows bigger, of course. Not that I'm so happy about it, what I was saying. Oh, meine Goethe. But that, yeah, it was not him. Because, as I said, he was totally not skinny because he loved his food. He loved good food, organic food. He loved green apples. And so he wanted to live very healthy. That was that man with the little black mustache. He knew exactly where it came from. He was totally into organic, good food. So that's, I wanted to say something more. Do I have proof? No. But I must say the resemblance of the face, they did do a good job on that. But that is not so difficult to change features and so on with all the techniques they already for so long have. So that's... What do you think about chemtrails? That they do exist, but there's a lot more going on. It's to hide the firmament and to hide that is for sure that's another story, but that there are certain planets who are that everything is closer than humanity thinks, and the Earth is bigger than everyone is being told. So they have a lot to hide. So I feel that it's also to hide and to get also to change the atmosphere I talked about it in earlier live streams, but there are several reasons for that. To keep the sun away, but also to see what's really going on out there. So there are certain certain means why they do that. So that's the one programmer. So he was not my basic programmer for long, because he was at high age. What I recall was that he was 68 years. That he became 68 years old. If that's true, I don't know, but that's what's being told to me. And I was with his death present. And I know it was him, so I'm not doubting, not one bit, that he was my basic programmer and that he was that man with the little mustache. I always say it like that, but you have maybe an idea who I mean. So now to come back to Dr. Green. Dr. Green was... what I said, the most evil one, and I saw a lot of times his eyes change into a split eye, so that I saw the black center of the eye, I saw then becoming like vertical, like slit eye. And I know he had a creature in him, and that that they worked together with. Let me start with this Dr. Green first. He designed my basic the whole grid, the whole design of my personality system, the basics. What he did for that was that I was in a kind of a nursery school, and in that nursery school were all kinds of colored rooms, and each colored rooms had a few chairs or these children chairs, in these cute colors. Like it looked cute when I would go inside a little tiny classroom like that. It would be like I would be literally in a nursery school entering in a cute classroom. But it was such horrific traumas what I had to endure there and had to see. That is, for example, I was forced to train myself into certain blocks in certain shapes to put them in the right opening of that box. It's called, in a way, it's a toy, I know, but I forgot what it's called. And if I would do it wrong or not quickly enough, then I was not punished. No, but because that is the basic trick. It's not that I would be punished. No, I would be punished indirectly. No, it's even harder when someone of that group, which were always of same age of mine, and that these toddlers, for example, were then, I should say that out loud, but it really happened that if I would not do accordingly to what he wanted me or within a certain time, then one of these children were killed in front of my eyes. And that is the world. That is the world of MKultra, and growing up as MKultra and being programmed and keep on being traumatized. And this is only one example of what happened, for example, in these classrooms. I had classrooms and nursery in that nursery school of Dr. Green, and they had several colors, like also his name, Dr. Green, so green, the color green. All kinds of horrific stuff. And another room which I will never forget was the sewing room with sewing machines. And there was forced to do the most horrific things with sewing machines. And I cannot pronounce. I cannot talk about what I had to witness there. That's too gruesome. Maybe you have an idea what you all can do with sewing machines. When I started to deprogram here in the house, then I used to heal, to sketch everything what I had in relivings and flashbacks. So I have boxes full of sketchbooks and notebooks with the most horrific sketches and drawings, and I hope one day to donate it to a trusted facility, or for maybe it can contribute to other survivors or victims, that if they would see that would then be a certain acknowledgement for I'm not the only one who had to undergo that. But when my dear friend here saw all these drawings every time, then she at times could not even speak, like that she felt it in her stomach and almost was sick of having seen these horrific traumas. And it's, as I said, not just one trauma. Of one trauma, the programmers then invented variations of that. Another variation of programming and trauma is a lot to do with death and the smell of death and horrific things, butchering people, butchering children in front of my eyes, and so many variations. And this is why also many MKultras, and I know more and more speak out, but that they are not being believed. Because it is beyond horrific. It is like what you see in a horror movie, and then not one horror movie, no, that you see 20 simultaneous horror movies at the same time. And that I'm then sitting here in front of you with the beautiful flowers next to me and that I can talk about it. Yeah, I truly feel it's a miracle too, but it did happen to me. Everything what I talk about in these live streams, specifically about the horrific things, is that I all relived them. And literally relived is that I felt it physically, emotionally, mentally, everything. So that is for me also my own proof that I did experience it, and still I can recall the details of a lot of these tortures. So I think that will never go away, but maybe by talking about it, that it then will gradually maybe, subside. I'm not sure. Maybe. And maybe I want to remember. At times it's good for me to feel again then how true it all is, how true this programming was, and this evil what there is. And it is still there. Because I see the people, a lot of them leading the world or organizations, and they're still there. Why are they still there? Yeah, oh, that's so frustrating at times. Oh, meine Güte. Yeah. But yeah, I see, what time flies, man. I would never imagine that I would still sitting here and talking. Are you interested in also a bit about the other programmers? Because I did not mention really White Rabbit and what's that other one? Queen E. So I myself was planning on going live for 2 hours. So I'm already approaching that. So I see a yes. And thank you for being here, by the way. And also love to know if you would like more of these live streams. And is it a fitting time for you where you are? Because I am thinking about also trying out, for example, to go live from 2 o'clock in the morning or 2:30 in the morning. And not every week, because for me I first need to find out if I can arrange that here in the house, because I'm living together with other people also. But Bastiaan, who is White Rabbit? Well, White Rabbit is another name for the basic programmer, one of these 4. And I call him White Rabbit because I had to call him often like that. And he often even wore a white rabbit mask with ears and all. So a kind of a head mask which you wear fully over your head. And he was, for a couple of presidents, also vice president in the USA. And he was a horrific man. And he is the only one who's still alive of all my 4 programmers. I believe so. I did not check if he passed over, but I believe he still is alive. Very at high age, by the way. So he's the last one of my 4 programmers. The other 3, left their bodies. And White Rabbit, it is like White Rabbit is also in Alice of Wonderland, and it's a typical programming symbol as well. And the programmers love to ridiculize, like for example, cute things or cute animals like a white rabbit. So that even I would be scared of seeing a white rabbit. And everything needs to be traumatized and ridiculized. Every single thing. I mentioned it today with with my dear friend here, because last couple of days I had to fight again against eating disorders, which would jump up again. Sometimes that happens, and then she said, yeah, everything in food is almost triggering me. So I'm every day careful with what I eat. It changes every now and then what I want to eat. Sometimes I don't like sweet. Other times I like salt only. Oh, it's a complex living here with deprogramming MKultra. It's never boring. That's what I told her as answer. Well, I said her name, and then I said, well, at least it's not a boring life. And then she has to laugh, because it's for sure not a boring life what we live here. So, but that's White Rabbit. So it's based on Alice in Wonderland, and he was very connected to Alice in Wonderland, and it is perfect Alice in Wonderland, because Alice in Wonderland had that queen, that says, chop off his head. Well, that could then be literally be a programming, but also literally be done in front of my eyes, which also happened, by the way, and not once. A lot of times. And not only 100 times, no, a lot of times. Duplicate that. Yeah, that's the horrors I had to witness. And Queen E mentioned that in these kind of rituals and tortures to others, because I had to witness them from a close. Chop off their heads, and it is then an innocent fairy tale like Alice in Wonderland. But to come back to White Rabbit, that as well, that's what I wanted to say. That White Rabbit had that character role in that he mentions that Alice runs behind him to that the deep hole in which the rabbit hole. Well, that's an expression. Run into the rabbit hole, or it's a big rabbit hole. That's an expression, I believe, especially in the USA and England. So there you have that symbolism. There is even a pop song which is called White Rabbit, and that's connected also with the drug scene and hallucination. And in Alice in Wonderland, Alice has to eat a piece of a mushroom. Well, there you have it, a piece of a mushroom to grow bigger and also to become smaller again. So it's all the time about double speech and so on. So that is maybe a bit an answer to your question. Bastiaan, can you still live with men these days? Yes, I can. Specifically, specifically nowadays, yes. Before that, I was too hard busy with deprogramming. Well, I'm not scared of men or something. I'm not scared at all. So I can hug them. I have friends. I had friends as men. I had friends who were couples, man, woman. That was never a problem. But when it was about really becoming more intimate, yeah, that was for me, well, in the front life, actually never the case, because I was scared of men in that way, yeah. But not scared in the sense of as friends. Yeah. But it's it's going okay. That's all I can say. And that rhymes. Hello, Flat Earth dude. Welcome. Can you play the piano for us? I can play the piano for you, but not now. I'm too tired and there are people sleeping in the house. So I'd rather not make too much noises now. But I love to do another time, because I do want to play. But I have so many plans, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. Not for tonight. So next time maybe. And I talked already almost 2 hours, so I don't think I can make it any longer. Too long to be live. And I talk about pretty heavy stuff now, so woof. Hello, I see on Rumble TFN Network. Welcome on Rumble. Because I'm also live on Rumble, and I tried to go live on Twitter, and Twitter did not accept. I got network error, but that went very well Twitter all the time. But yeah, I have to, I think, set up again. And I am on my English YouTube. And I see Into on my English YouTube. Yeah, Sunbeam's thing. That's great that you also found your way there. Did I now mention? Oh yeah, Queen E. Short about Queen E, because I do feel. I think I want to go sleep in a bit because this is my second live stream. Yeah, thank you so much, Flat Earth Dude. And well, next time you're maybe a bit earlier than you can, but you also always can, of course, rewatch this live stream. But thanks so much. And yeah, I think it's important, but I do realize there are more people speaking out. So, and yeah, I hope to be part of a ripple effect in getting the truth out and that it exists, these horrific things. Yeah, Queen E, as I said, she was connected also in that Alice in Wonderland programming. And her basic programming was to make me feel as if I was attached to her. She could be, in a way, kind, but with her, I never could step away from her. She had a kind of cold eyes, always. It was never warm. The warmth, she was never warmed. Another typical thing was that when I was... well, her programming was that I had to lie against her chest, and that she literally felt cold, and that is because because she already left this earth, that she was connected to a being as well, a reptilian being, and I can talk about also shape-shifting and the difference in reptilian species and how they appear, etc. But that's not for now, and I really start to feel like longing for my bed and going for sleep in a bit. And that I was, for example, wrapped in a light yellow blanket. And that was when I was already very little. But even when I was older, then she called up in me a personality who was also little. And then I was wrapped in, of course, that blanket was then bigger because I was in the physical already grown up. But since she pulled up in me another personality who was very little, that made me think that I was a toddler. And then that I was wrapped in that yellow blanket. And then she was just comforting me. But her body felt ice cold. For me, very significant to, how she was for real. She was cruel. I never felt any warmth from her. And in a way, I did at times love her, how weird that may sound, but love is not the right word even. She at times also gave me some beautiful tea arrangements, high tea, and then with tea and cookies, and it was put on a round table. And what still occurs to me that when I met her in that position, and it was in one of her palaces, because she has many more than only England. In Scotland is one. Scotland has also a copy on Off Planet. But that was a large room, almost like that it was a ballroom, but it was beautifully decorated. And she was very conservative. She loved old-fashioned stuff, and it was always very. Only there was then that tiny round table, and then the two chairs, and then on top of that table there was that setup with the cakes, little cakes, and like an afternoon tea looks like, and then a cup of tea, and that I always had to lift up my pinky finger when I was drinking my tea, and I had these long gloves. Had to wear these long gloves. Don't know how they are called. Do they have a specific name? These gloves you can not, but literally put until here. So these long gloves, long sleeved gloves, or how do you call them in English? Maybe some of you know. Hello, Amsterdam time-lapse, night-lapse videos. Hello, welcome. Welcome on YouTube. Are you on my English YouTube or my other YouTube? I'm curious. Let me see. I am live there too. Welcome. You're on my other YouTube channel. Welcome again. Yeah, I was on my way to go to a closure. I'm longing for my bed. How are you all doing, by the way? Pascal, you could see it in her eyes, and she never looked like a warm person. Yeah, there are circling around videos that she looks very nasty to a child. Yeah. But that was, it's too personal for me, but when she smiled, it was never a really sincere smile. But I think you know what I mean. That it was always something creepy. Yeah, thanks so much, Flat Earth Dude. Also, good luck with your channel. And of course, also Amsterdam time-lapse, night-lapse videos. Hope to see you next time. Please subscribe to everyone who feels maybe like more of these live streams. Would you like to see more of these around this time? And when she smiled, it was fake. Yeah. And then that's what I meant with that example of these aluminum heads. And not to ridiculize aluminum heads. It was accidentally chosen, that aluminum material. So it was not to ridiculize. It was to give an example of a certain bubble of worshipping people who have, because their name is, for example, I am, someone with aluminum head and a feather, then that means that I'm pure and the most wonderful person. No. It's, I hope that will, that there will be a breakthrough in that people start to see more and more, because I, for so long, feel so alone in this. Like, then there is a kind of, for example, how you say that? A special day to celebrate someone, and I know then that someone and the family was heavily abusing me, sexually abusing me, and I knew them in person. From their evil side. That is so awful and so lonely to then see people adore and celebrate on that day. I still have a hard time with that, but I accept it. But so, well, dear people, it's past 2:00. I'm tired, and maybe see you next time. would be great if you then join me again, and I will then see what I will talk about. I for sure want to do more live streams, not only about MKultra, but as well to um, to play maybe a bit of piano, and also the light-hearted part, because I have many of the people who are also here know me, that I can also, I love also laughing and have humor and fun in life. So I'm not only MKultra, former MKultra, so. Yeah, thanks Barry, thanks for moderating, and also Miss Vanity, the two great moderators, and for everyone who don't know them yet, look them up. They have their own channel too. Hey, Miss Vanity, Miranda, yeah, you should sing more. Yeah, that's also the plan. Yeah, to play the piano and start to sing. Exactly, and also a shout out to Miss Vanity. Yeah. And then I have to wait a minute, and I think I will not now go for a raid. I think I will choose to go for sleep. And I thank you all so much for being here, because I'm not sure if you know that, but because I am live on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, six channels at the same time, 6 platforms at during this whole live stream. So I'm mostly not aware of that you might not know that, but it's maybe not important. But 6 platforms at the same time. I'm live streaming. Tip, rate, Geraldad. What is that kind of? I can do a rate. I mean, I have all the time here, and I had a kind of a vision like, oh, I can live stream until early in the morning, and now I really am tired. I can also see it in a little screen on the monitor. 6 impressive. Yeah, pretty proud, but again, thanks to also the technical help and teacher, also Barry and also Miranda. I learn a lot from them as well. Nicole Belafonte. Oh, okay, kind of. Oh, that sounds nice. All right, and I can copy that. Oh gosh, I will. Okay. Well, dear people, yeah, it was amazing that you are here. I noticed that my story, my sometimes I am blocked in talking fluently English, and I was a lot in USA and England, and I know that I have somewhere still my languages to free fully. So, but with the military part now being freed, that could be now the beginning of that. Maybe my speech will be more fluent. So, yeah, I hope that it will be noticeable. Hey, what? I did copy the wrong one. Of course, that's my tiredness, and for everyone who's not, I think you all understand what rating is, but it can be very surprising people. And it's, yeah, I like it. So please come along with the rate, I would say. Okay, there we go. Keep bringing the truth, flat earth you, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really motivating. So thanks so much, and see you all next time. And for the ones who want to come along with the raid, please follow, come along, come along. And thank you so much for listening, watching, and hope to see you next time. And here we go. Thanks for that tip, Barry. In Dutch it's Barry, and in English it's Barry. So I confuse it because of my tiredness. So see you next time, everyone. Did I now? Am I now rating?